Good.
Yay.
About that, we were discussing some stuff, and I happened to look over, and Shay's like, "You're late." I'm like, "Oh crap!"
Wait, it's all my fault. I was like shuffling legal documents all over the place. You're trying to wake Jay's butt up. Here we go.
Ugh.
It's a good day for coffee, Jay. Just saying.
I got
good
Coke.
morning. You got Coke? Well, there you go. You got some caffeine anyway. Well, good morning, everyone.
Morning. So how is we everybody ready to wrap this one up? Put it to bed.
Yes. You know what, Jay? This has been therapeutic for me. I've been dogging on this NXIVM thing for a long time. This 7-part series, I think I'm finally going to be able to put this puppy to bed.
Yeah, we'll put a rubber stamp on it and call it a day.
Call it done. Call it done.
Call it done.
Call it done. Good morning, Verillion. Or actually, good evening, Verillion. Yeah. Happy to see you. Oh. Jay does need a coffee, Chris. You see that? You got yourself a super chat to read there.
Yep. Give me just a second.
From the partner.
And it was Raven that said we were late. Her and Krabby.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she knows you are. Yeah. So she knows it was all your fault. Don't try to blame it on me. It was all your fault.
No, it was all my fault. So I'm sorry, Shay. it was Krabby and Raven. $2 Australian super chat from Hereticals. It just says Jay needs coffee.
Yes, he does. Oh, he would. Yes. So Jay.
Oh, that's right. Shay said we put him in timeout.
Oh, she must have been around last time you got all wrench crazy, huh?
Hey, I had to take advantage.
No, you didn't. You didn't really have to.
Another $2 from Chris says Jay is why old people shouldn't do technology. That's true.
Oh gosh, keep them coming, Chris. Keep them coming.
Oh. Shay says I own my petty.
Okay. All right. Well, and on that note, how do you want to get this show on the road, Jay?
What we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about the all important court cases and the judgments coming down on Keith Raniere and Alison Mack and all those involved. But first, we're going to do a short recap of what's going on and what we've covered already.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to turn it over to Claire. She's got all kinds of stuff. We got slideshow presentation, lots of cool things. She come bearing witness today.
Don't make it too big. We don't want them to get disappointed. So,
I don't think they'll be disappointed. So in episode 1, we covered Keith Raniere. That was a month ago. A little over a month ago. So yeah, that was so. Like I said, this is part 7. So in part 1 we covered Keith Raniere. Part 2 we covered Tony Natale and Nancy Saltzman. In part 3 it was all about the money. The Bronfman twins and what's your face? Brain fart. The accountant. Claire.
What? Kathy Russell. Kathy Russell.
Yep,
earning my pay. Earning my keep. Here we go.
Yeah. So the Saltzman twins and Kathy Russell was all about the money in episode 3. Mm-hmm. Episode 4 was all about Alison Mack and her ties to NXIVM and DOS and the sex cult and the branding and all that happy good stuff. And part 5, we covered what NXIVM itself was, and then the subgroups. We also talked about the sashes and some other things. Part 6, last week's episode, was all about the sex cult itself and what happened to the women there. So today we're going to wrap it all up in one big bow and put a rubber stamp on it.
Because, it was actually that sex cult that got him locked up. You know that, right? Regardless of all the other crap we told you about the MLN and the stocks and all the illegal stuff they were doing. Mm. It just had to get
So
nasty.
let's before we jump in, let's talk about the uh, before the New York Times article.
Yeah. Because there was
Let-
most people don't know everything that went on before that because the New York Times article was such a big thing, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot of people consider the New York Times article the break in the case, which is true. It's what brought it into the spotlight. But there were some things that happened before then, Claire.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes, they were.
why don't you tell us what happened before the New York Times article?
Well, we know that Sarah Edmondson, which is one of the key players in the article that the New York Times put out, she was the voice of this is what happened. This is what happened to DOS victims. That would be Sarah Edmondson, the Canadian actress. She was one of the head people in the Vancouver office of NXIVM. Her and Mark Vicente had set up office there with Keith's permission. Remember, I told you they had like an offshoot. Well, it was there in Vancouver, just far enough away. They started to notice some really horrendous financial problems and structure problems and illegalities that they wasn't sitting well with them. Okay, so they started taking copies of all of the records and they started, building a case against NXIVM in general for fleecing its members of everything that they have by extortion and coercion and all these other things that they were doing, keeping people's documents, holding them, to get them to do things, not paying them for jobs that were done. A lot of just wrong kinds of things. So they documented all this and they went to the FBI. Sarah Edmondson, after talking to some of the ex-members, Tony being one, Barbara being another one,
There's
people that she
Tony
looked at.
Natali and
Yeah.
Barbara
Barbara.
Boucher, which we
Yes.
discussed in episodes
Mm-hmm.
2 and 3.
Mm-hmm. So they're talking and everything, and they decide that they have enough and they know enough people are going to come forward because Barbara Boucher had a lot of financial information. She was involved in a lot of stuff beforehand. Okay.
Yeah,
And
she was
yeah.
the
All right.
original accountant, wasn't she?
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
she had all of the documentation and everything. And once Sarah knew that Barbara would speak on it, Sarah went to the FBI months before the article, 5 or 6 months at least before the article came out. She dumped everything on the FBI. Okay. And they didn't really do anything. Okay. And then, all of the pressure of DOS and everything started happening with her. Everything got more. She told Mark Vicente what was going on. He had been pressuring Keith Rainier about Alison Mack and how she looked and the things that were happening with her and other women inside the cult, bringing his concerns, not being satisfied with what Keith was saying about it. So the two of them, being very, very good friends, put their heads together and she finally told Mark everything. And then that's where, the Frank report gets involved. Okay, because he was also part of NXIVM for a long time, but then they involve Frank in the New York Times. And then boom, once it hits that not only is it a nasty MLN that's fleecing everybody and holding people hostage and doing things against New York state law left and right, but now they're also in sex trafficking and women are being branded and people what really got them was the Title 18 in the code about, you're not allowed to make money on sex trafficking people. And then when you
You
do,
shouldn't be. You're not allowed
yeah,
to sex traffic anyways, but
you're
definitely
not
can't
really
make any
allowed to
money
do
on
that.
it.
So once they got a whiff of that, it all hit the fan and it hit the fan fast within 2 days. 2 days of that article. All of a sudden there's an investigation open in New York and boom,
What
I
I
do
think,
believe a lot of it was there beforehand and they just brought it to forelight, right? Into the spotlight right after that. And they just moved faster because the amount of information that they came out with against him would be unfathomable to gather in 2 days.
yeah,
It was been impossible.
and I think it's interesting that it took that New York Times article to bring this to light, even after all this stuff was brought to the FBI to begin with.
I do believe the case was being built. I just think the wheels of justice are a little quiet and slow behind the scenes. I do believe because the amount, I mean, Jay, gosh, the amount of shit they hit him with.
That original New York Times article was long.
It definitely was. But it just came to the media spotlight, after that New York Times article. And it started getting talked about publicly, and people were starting to come forward. More people, once the spotlight was shined on it, more victims and people that had gotten out of the cult were willing to talk.
Yeah. Before we go any further, you want to bring that presentation back up because I want to show everybody, those who are involved in the before and afters. Because I think that's really interesting to look at before we actually get into what the actual charges are and what the judgments were.
Hold on, I'll put it on full screen for. Okay. So you wanna start with the people?
Yeah, you want to share it?
I thought I did. Wait a minute. Yep. Wait a minute.
Nope.
God, I just told it to. I did tell it to, Jay. It just didn't. It didn't cooperate. Okay, so there you go. That's their first one.
Miss Kathy Russell. This is the accountant. These are the before and after pictures. You see before she started with Keith and then afterwards. So
yeah,
this is the before. Yeah.
Kathy's picture is actually taken right from the FBI and the court documentations on what she looked like. She was already with him when this picture was taken, so it's not like her most youthful picture. But it's hard to find anything on Kathy Russell because even Wikipedia doesn't have her name blue. It's all blacked out. Like there's nothing. Like Kathy, she's in the weeds.
It's like she got a hold of some hacker and said, "Make me disappear."
Yeah. All right, so you ready?
So who we got next?
Next, I've got Lauren.
Lauren Saltzman, yep.
Yeah, Lauren became a mature woman over this. Remember, she was with him a very long time. She was very long time as his lover, his cohort. She is accused of crimes that are very personal in nature against individuals. And she didn't deal with it very well. She took a lot of therapy. She was bright, energetic, and now very pensive and not really happy with herself as a person for what she had done.
Yeah, Krabby with her membership super chat says, which one is it before and after?
Oh, I'm sorry.
The one on the left will be the before and the one on the right is the after.
I think you could tell with Allison which one might be because that I wanted to show Allison the difference. I picked pictures where you could see the amount of weight. She was already a very thin person.
Yeah, she wasn't
because she was an actress. But look at the difference just there in the neck and the face area right there. She had gotten down another 20 pounds at least, 25 pounds at least. She was a shell of herself by the time sentencing came around.
And then who we got next?
Nancy
Saltzman,
yeah. Now, this one kind of gets me because Nancy was a light on herself. I mean, we talked about this before. Nancy had it all going for her before she met Keith. She did not need Keith at all. She had a very successful consulting. She was well on her way, worth over millions of dollars already. That was a professional businesswoman who owned herself and everything she wanted to do, and she was well on just happy with everything in her life, but apparently she thought something was missing and she hooked up with Keith and ended up losing everything. Luckily she did not lose most of her family, but same thing with even Claire Bronfman, all that money, and she went from an energetic young woman to a sullen, quiet, and angry. Of all of the people that have had charges against them, Claire Bronfman right now is the angriest about what has happened because she's the one that has to pay the most.
Yeah,
now.
and we will explain that in a little bit. $5 super chat from the Krabby Hermit said, "This is for Chris. Old people starter text, so number 8."
Okay. All right. So that is it. You want me to take it
Now,
down?
well, I wanted you to bring up the big circle of
Those guys.
those people. Okay, this is everyone involved in the lawsuits, one
Yes,
way or
this
the
is.
other.
Yeah, you see that GX362. This is actually a photo from the file on the people that are actually involved in all of the counts in the cases. This would be, they don't put the names on them, but in the actual indictments, they list them as Jane Doe or John Doe, numbers 1 through 8 and numbers 1 through 5. And then there are the key players that are actually named in the charges. And there are also key witnesses in here too. People that came forward, and like Ivy Nevares, who came forward during sentencing for each of them and said what actually happened to her personally and why they should get the maximum sentences and etc.
You can see there, like we talked about last week, there's Daniela, the girl they
There's
kept in the room.
Daniela, yep,
The girl
and
that was kept in the
Mariana.
room for 2 years. Yep.
There's Barbara Boucher there because of her testimony and what was done. And was that Dawn Morrison's in there, Christine Keefe, Barbara Jeske, Karen Untenera. These are Karen Untenera right up there, and Pamela and Daniela Padilla Berger. And these are all still active members high up in NXIVM. We're not charged. They're out there now, or they were in 2020. I can't really say right now, but in 2020, last year, they were still actively working under the NXIVM umbrella with things in their name and doing things for Keith. Keith was actually getting phone calls all the time, making phone calls and actually running NXIVM from prison for certain people. And we know that Nikki Klein helps him to do that.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought his phone privileges have been taken away.
Well, this is 2021 now. This was in 2020. They were taken away after they proved, I believe, I don't know if you wanted me to mention it, but the actual victims, some of the people there got together and decided the sentencing wasn't enough, that they needed all their money back. And they filed a class action civil suit against all the remaining members that they know have assets in their name. NXIVM, all of the guilty parties, and NXIVM, the corporation itself, and the other names that it goes under, which the executive the executive
Success programs.
Yes, that against executive executive whatever that one. You know
Success
what I'm trying
programs.
to say.
ESP.
Yes, that one, and then the one before that too. They did that one too. They even filed against them too. So it was they're just not messing around. They're definitely not messing around. They're gonna get everything that they can get out of him. Cool. So
let's move on to. Well, I think is Saltzman the one that had the charges and then dropped? Is that
we could start with that. Like the original indictment, okay? The original indictment has seven counts, okay? But Keith Renier was found guilty up to 11 by the time he went to court, because the first, let's start with those first 7, if that's okay with you, Jay.
Yep, that's fine.
The first one being the major count on this whole legal case. Now, this was filed. This is actually filed back in July 24th of 2018. They threw this major indictment at all of them, and they name Keith, of course, and they name Lauren and Nancy Saltzman, okay, and they name Claire Bronfman, Alison Mack, and Kathy Russell. These are all the defendants, okay? They list in there Keith's other name, Vanguard, and Nancy's other name is Prefect, okay? They filed all of these charges under the regulations of what we would call Title 18, which is mostly racketeering, conspiracy, and illegal acts relating to money and identity and things like that. Like all the racketeering, kind of like what you do with the mob, you know, a little bit. Not going into too much, just to make it like a little more digestible without getting all technical. Now, within count 1, which is racketeering conspiracy, okay, which means that they have to prove that they all worked together in some kind of network to do this. When they use the word conspiracy, they don't have to say you actually did it. They have to show you wanted to and you were working towards making an environment to have it happen. Okay, for the first act under that count, and there are 9 or 10 acts just under count 1. On
I thought it was 10.
It's 10. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's 10. And then, because I had to flip the paper, Jay. You hear the paper? Okay. You know, I'm an old-fashioned girl. Like I have like 27 tabs open, but I also have
and about notes. 30 pages of notes.
Exactly. You know me well. Are you peeking? Okay. Anyway, Act 1, conspiracy is to commit identity theft, to unlawful possess the identity and the identifying informations and using them in an illegal manner against Jane Doe 1. And that count right there, from count 1, Act 1, goes directly against Keith Raniere and Kathy Russell, because Kathy Russell was helping them secure the identities and the banking information of anybody that was like part of NXIVM. Okay, Act 2 was conspiracy to commit identity theft. From wire and electric transmission committed. This is from emails, making wire transfers, doing bank debit card transfers against John Doe 1 and 2. 1 was a conspiracy, and 2 was actual. They had the actual facts all in a row and could prove in black and white that Keith Raniere and Claire Bronfman were actually guilty of this. They also indicated Kathy Russell and Nancy Saltzman, but they somehow or other disappeared from it a little later on. Act 3 was conspiracy to alter the records for use in an official proceeding. And this is the part that they used against Nancy Saltzman. There was another lawsuit against Ross Institute, which had used some of the materials, the training materials of Keith Raniere to show why it wasn't a good idea to be around Keith Raniere. And so he went after them legally, okay? And Claire Bronfman financed that legal case, but they caught Nancy red-handed, tried to manipulate videos and all kinds of documentation that was going to be used in the lawsuit with Ross, against Ray.
Yeah, sorry. In the actual reading, it says video recordings of Nancy Saltzman with the intent to impair such objects' integrity and availability for the use of official proceedings.
She messed with the evidence.
Yep.
Yeah, and got caught red-handed. That's what happened there. She messed with the evidence in another legal case, and they have documentation of it. So they threw that in there too, because like they want these people bad. Everything they find, they're throwing in this indictment. Well, Act 4 was conspiracy to commit ID theft against Jane Doe 2. That went against only Keith. Apparently, Keith, he had a favorite, and he kept all the documentation himself. And he's the only one listed in that one. For Act 5, encourage and induce illegal entry into the country and money laundering. That goes against only Claire Bronfman. For funding the actual illegal transportation of illegal immigrants into the country to make money, especially, and to make money with them by financial gain, knowing that they do not have legal papers, harboring them without legal papers, and making money off of them without having legal papers, and also financing all of those activities. They nailed her to the wall with Act 5 and count 1. For Act 6, trafficking and documentation in servitude. They held people against their will, most likely Keith Raniere and Lauren Saltzman specifically, this was against, were keeping people in servitude, meaning taking all their documentation so they could not go anywhere. And this was specifically related to Danielle, I believe you were referring to before, Jay.
Yeah.
When she was kept, they took all of her documentation of citizenship and everything else, and so that she could, her passport to get back to Mexico and kept her in servitude here against her will with coercion and force. And that they put against Lauren. On Act 7, state law extortion. New York really doesn't like it if you take things that belong to other people by extortion. They use this a lot, here on the East Coast. Title 18 is a big thing around here with illegal activities and things like that. But what they actually what they want, I actually liked the wording of this one. This is one of the few things I'm actually going to read right from it. From racketeering from Act 7 of Count 1 for state law extortion, what happened between September 2015 and June of 2017. It goes against Keith Raniere, Alison Mack, and Lauren Saltzman specifically. And it does say that they actually held against, by instilling fear in the people that they were trying to extort. If the property was not delivered, that either Raniere, Mack, or Lauren Saltzman and others would expose a secret and publicize an asserted fact, whether true or false, tending to subject one or more persons to hatred, contempt, ridicule, and to perform an act which would not in itself materially benefit them and others, but which was calculated to harm one or more persons materially with respect to their health, safety, business, calling, career, financial condition, reputation, and personal relationships, in clear violation of New York Penal Code law sections, blah, 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 blah. You like that? Oh,
and
but
this one for me is like I said, it does state in it says lower ranking DOS members.
Yep.
But this right here, at Racketeering Act 7 is probably the one that grabs everybody the most, because this is where the sex acts and the sex trafficking really hits.
Well, that would be count 3 of another father. But this actually here, they did this to everybody. Yeah. Everyone who was part of NXIVM had to contribute in some way, and their information was technically used against them, and they were extorted to stay in NXIVM in some way or do something that Keith wanted. They used it against everybody, because that particular Act 7 is going against, like, they're saying they used it against everybody, not just the DOS. Because when they actually mention DOS, they'll say the lower ranking DOS members in the master slave organization, because they actually have more of an issue there because of the master slave kind of pyramid that they built there. Here they're saying that they're actually guilty of extortion all the time. That just the regular day-to-day, that act there is saying that they are saying the actual day-to-day activities of NXIVM supported this behavior and was illegal. Then they go on, turning the page for Jay. Then they go on to Act 8, which is sex trafficking, labor, and state law extortion. And this is like you said, Jay, now they're going to start talking about, interstate foreign commerce for an illegal gain by forcing people to have sex for money. And they get, and this was it, commercial sex acts they're talking about. They're saying they use physical restraint, that they force them with stolen identities to get them into these positions, used coercion, force, threats, anything you can think of. They used sexually explicit photos and videos to blackmail them. To stay in servitude for sex trade. And they actually put this only against Keith Raniere and Alison Mack specifically. But when they mention everyone, like when they say against Keith Raniere and Alison Mack, they also, every single act, they will add and others, because they're not letting anybody get away with it. If you knew about it, they're going to throw it at you. And this is how they presented it to everybody they were putting on the charges. If you even have a whiff if this was going on, we're bringing you into this part of it too.
Yeah. Now, I real quick here, Krabby had asked a question. They said, where'd it go? How many victims did they create? Well, we know there's a lot, but in this document, there was 8 men and 8 women and 5 men. because Krabby said, I think it was a lot more than 13. And absolutely, there was tons and tons more than just the 13 that are mentioned here.
Yeah.
In,
With
in
the
this,
sex trafficking, there are
yeah.
at least 12. There are at least 12 documented between the men and the women of sex. There was there's at least 13 actually. It's 5 and 8. So
Yeah.
13 documented as Jane Doe and John Doe's throughout the documentation. 13 credible witnesses with documentation that they went for. But as far as victims of NXIVM that had a case, there's at least 120 going after them monetarily, if that helps you.
Yeah, that's what I was say. I couldn't remember the number. I was thinking 160, but I was thinking that was too much. But yeah,
it could be that high. It could be that high now because people are, they're still going after them. So there's still that part. The civil part is people are still going after them left and right. So, all right. So where we are. Okay, now we're.
So yeah, in this case, it was 13.
Okay, so for now, we're still on count 1, and we're getting down to act now number 9, which is forced labor. Okay, which is going against Lauren Saltzman specifically for the physical restraining of Jane Doe 6, who we know is to be Daniela, and the extortion of property and coercion to keep her there and to suffer serious harm. Just threatened her regularly to stay and do what she was told, took her identifying documentation away from her so that she could not leave of her own free will. Definitely they went after Lauren for that exclusively because she was the one guarding the door all the time. Act 10, the last one for count 1, is conspiracy to commit identity theft against Jane Doe 7, which was one of the other victims. This goes against Keith Rainier and Claire Bronfman, because when they start talking about the conspiracies to commit the money and the interstate foreign currency transactions, they're talking about bringing people across from Mexico and other places, holding them by taking their documentation, or bringing them over illegally as illegal immigrants, knowing and harboring them there and keeping them there against their will. Well, they really got Claire Bronfman on this one because she was transferring funds back and forth from a United States account to an offshore account and back again to the United States, and using that funds to pay for this illegal activity, thinking that it was all clean now and they're not going to find it. So they caught her for actually laundering the money that she used to then dirty up again with illegal acts and then launder again. And they caught her quite well with that in the documentation. Well, that is everything on count 1 for the conspiracies.
Mind you, that was just count 1.
Right. Of the original 7. I'm going to take a sip of coffee. These go quick after this, and I don't want to bore you, but it's important to know how much they threw at him, so that you understand like what happened to everybody. Because what happens at the end is like, to me, it's fascinating because this is a lot of crap, and how they dwindled this down is unbelievable. Count 2 is forced labor conspiracy. That kind of explains itself. That goes against Keith, and it goes against Allison, and it goes against Lauren, and it's directly related, as Jay said, to the DOS members. They forced them into labor and servitude and all kinds of things with threats and coercion. Count 3 is wire fraud conspiracy. False fraudulent pretenses to use money to extend money from other people's accounts, pretending that you are them. Okay, not good for the state. The state has real issue with that. And there's a nice little paragraph on that for you here too. They're saying that Vanguard, Alison Mack, and Lauren, together with others, did knowingly and intentionally conspire a device and a scheme and artifice to defraud one or more persons, to wit, the lower-ranking DOS members, and to obtain money and property, including rights to their assets, their credit card authorizations, and sexually explicit photographs and videos from them by means of materially false and fraudulent pretenses, representations, and promises, and for the purpose of executing such scheme and artifice to transmit and cause to be transmitted by means of wire communication in interstate and foreign commerce, writings, signs, signals, pictures, and sounds, to wit, electronic messages, telephone, text messages, and telegram messages, contrary to Title 18 against the law to hold them in servitude. They extorted them, and they used their emails. They used everything they could find on them. They practically hacked these people's devices and kept everything. Like nothing was private. They had huge files on everybody, and they actually found them when they pulled in all of the information from the raids. That went against those three. Count 4 is sex trafficking conspiracy, directly related to the DOS members. They were held in servitude, told to commit commercial sex acts, to which the members of NXIVM, high-ranking members of NXIVM, got great benefit financially, which is what puts them on the hook here. Because just telling somebody to go have sex with somebody isn't exactly as illegal as then collecting $100 from that person when it happens, and then not giving it even a part of it to the person that actually committed the act. It's just wrong everywhere. Coercion, again, more fraud, more threats. It's like a running theme here with these people. All they did was extort. I mean, they just mean. Just threatening, coercing every chance they get. Count 5 is again sex trafficking of Jane Doe 5. Okay, same as Jane Doe 4 against Keith and Allison specifically. Count 6 is attempted sex trafficking against Jane Doe 8. And although they had it all set up and ready to go, no actual commercial sex act was committed under this act. Count 7 is conspiracy to commit identity theft. That was, again, Keith and Claire, because apparently Claire really likes to just hold everybody's documentation over her. She's got all that money. But what does she do? She takes their documentation, she goes to a bank, and she tries to extort more money out of them. Like, why, Claire? She has everything. She got nailed with that one. She did not have authority to use Jane Doe 7's banking information. They had identity information to pretend to be Jane Doe 7 and tried to commit some transactions in a banking authority with them. That is the original 7 acts, okay? Now we come back. We're going to move fast forward all the way to 2019, March 2019, okay? And another document hits. And I'd like to tell you that there are 1,135 legal documents that hit this court case.
Lots.
Yeah. And that's not pages. That's just the number of filings that we went through. 1,135. Yeah.
Before we get into that, has he been arrested yet at this point?
Yes, I believe.
Okay.
Yep. Wikipedia said so.
So I want to talk about the arrest real quick, because the arrest is kind of interesting. At the time, mind you, after the first filing, he left. Him and Alison Mack and the Saltzman and the Bronfmans all went to Mexico. And it was right around his birthday, and they were supposed to have this big party where all the members were supposed to give him a group blowjob for his birthday. And a lot of them were like, excuse me? So when the Mexican police came knocking on the door, I believe it was it Sarah? I think it was Sarah Bronfman. When they come in the house, she's like, he's in there. Because of what he was trying to force them to do, they weren't having none of it. And so when they bust through the door to get him, they're like, no, he's over there. You can go get his ass right there. It was just because, all these things written down. He thought he was going to be safe in Mexico. Wrong.
Yeah. They were arrested in March of 2018. So that was before the final indictment came down in July. They were arrested on the preliminary documentation before. The actual in concrete charges that I read to you were the final indictment filed, which was months later. But they did have a complaint prior to that. It was read very similar to what I'm reading to you, but didn't have the Jane Does listed, didn't have exactly who was doing what. It was more like an outline when they went to the grand jury. Well, it's a little crazy about that, because, we're going to come now to March, and Lauren and Nancy, they actually, do their pleadings in March. Nancy first. Nancy's plead to guilty for a charge of just racketeering and criminal conspiracy. Just part of count one part of it. Okay. None of the other stuff, none of the other counts. That happened on March 13th. What else happened on March 13th is that the prosecutors went back into a grand jury and added 4 more counts to the indictment against the remaining members and dropped Nancy Saltzman from the case.
And what does that indicate? She turned state's evidence.
Yeah, Nancy Saltzman, I've been telling you all along, she's the shit, right? Like, she knew what she was doing, okay? She was not going down with this ship. Remember, we talked about Nancy Saltzman becoming a broken woman, and all of a sudden, she was number 2 for the longest time, and somehow or other fell out of favor with Keith, and now is being tortured emotionally in front of her children, in front of all the other members of NXIVM, not being able to attend any of the meetings, supposedly being a high-ranking official and being blocked out of everything that NXIVM is doing. He is now torturing her on a regular basis, ridiculing her in front of other people. I don't blame her. I wouldn't take it on the chin for him either, But she proved that she had some metal left in her. She did have something left in that spine, and she turned immediately and threw everything that she knew into their hands, and they were able to go for additional charges. On March 13th, they added count 8, sex trafficking conspiracy against Keith and Allison for all of the DOS members. She was able to prove to them the actual conspiracy of how they held everything over everybody's head to get them into commercial sex acts against their will. Count 9 was sex trafficking with Jane Doe. That was Danielle against Keith and Allison. Remember, I told you everything against Jane Doe was all against Lauren before that. All of a sudden, they add Keith and Allison because they say no. They added Jane Doe because, again, they were coercing her to do commercial sex acts as a DOS member, that they had her there. Actually, count 10 is now attempted sex trafficking of Jane Doe 8. And then count 11 is conspiracy to commit ID fraud against Jane Doe 7. And that goes against Keith Rainier and again against Claire Bronfman. I don't know why she keeps trying to do this, but she likes it. They got her on that one too. All of those came from Nancy, additional information to prove it, and bumped up the case against Keith tremendously. That happened on, like I said, on March 13th. Her daughter was part of this. They were, she actually did some maneuvering for her daughter with this move too, because just a few days later, Lauren Saltzman then also pleads guilty to racketeering and racketeering conspiracy only. Now, remember, they had a lot of sex trafficking stuff against Lauren. They had kidnapping and illegal immigration acts against Lauren. And all of that got dropped based on the information. Nancy kind of wielded a good card there for Lauren. And I think one of the main reasons Lauren is not in jail is her mother right now. And what she did. Yeah.
Before we get to the actual sentencing, you want to bring up the that one picture you had about what they could be facing? Just so people can see what they could be facing compared to what they got.
Yeah. And this was just somebody's estimation, because when I looked at the numbers, some of these were just slightly off. But, Keith, of course, doesn't think he's going to get anything. But Lauren was facing up to 15 years on the most provable charges. Kathy Russell, the bookkeeper, 20 years based on all the identity fraud and banking stuff that she was doing. Alison Mack, 35 years. Claire Bronfman, 30 years. Nancy Saltzman, up to 25 years, just on the black and white facts that they could prove right there. This was an estimate that was done by one of the one of the people in the court that do the drawings and stuff. And it was the numbers that they were throwing out, that they were calculating as they were doing it. It's right from a court drawing. So, yeah. Oh, all this dry legal stuff. So now you want to go? You want to go to find out what they did?
Let's move on to that.
Okay. Paper. Who you want to start with? You want to start? I didn't write them down in any particular order.
That doesn't matter.
Because
whoever you want to start with first.
Okay. So basically, let's start with the women. Okay.
Yeah, let's leave Keith for last.
Yeah, I want to end with that son of a bitch in jail. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry. Forgive me, people. It's got a happy ending for me. Alison Mack pled guilty to only racketeering and racketeering conspiracy. She pled April 2019. Okay. By the time her sentencing came up on June 30th, she got 3 years. Okay. A lot less than what they're charging her for. Everything that they threw at Keith, they threw at Allison. Everything to do with DOS, they threw at Allison too. Every part of it. All of the racketeering in the beginning of count 1, Allison's in there. Almost every single one of those counts. So for her to only get 3 years, it's damn well pretty sure that she definitely had given them plenty of evidence against
I had
Keith
to get her sentence. I mean, and at one point, didn't she have like 2 years of house arrest?
She was, and that went to her because she was set to be sentenced. She got sentenced on June 30th, okay? But she had already been sentenced. She had already been locked herself up in a way and was going through therapy and all kinds of stuff. And I don't know about timing, Jake, because we were running late anyway. So you don't want to go through their actual statements, but we could link them later if you'd like. Allison actually was contrite.
Allison, I think we should bring up Allison's statement.
Okay, I have her state. You want me to share it? I have it here.
Yeah,
and you want to read? Okay.
Let's look at Allison's, because Allison's statement. You hear these people that talk up. They try to say, "Oh, they're so sorry. They're so sorry."
Allison's
I think Allison actually, from what I read on it before, I think hers is actually, I think it's heartfelt, and I think it's genuine.
Well, hers actually
to a point.
To a point. Okay. I don't know. Can you see that well? Did I share it?
Let me.
It starts with
here's
Max. Okay. Do you want to read, or do you?
I can read it. I can read it.
You tell me when to push. Yeah.
Okay. So Allison Mack's full statement: to those who have been harmed by my actions. To this date, it has been over 3 years since I last communicated with most of you. This period of isolation has been the most devastating but transformative period of my time of my life. Because of the court's decision to allow me to remain on home confinement, I have had the opportunity to be alone with my thoughts and in the most supportive and loving environment. Such an opportunity has offered me the time and strength I needed to confront my darkest parts of myself and come to terms with the pain my actions have inflicted on so many people I love, which is the reason for this letter. It is now of paramount of importance for me to say from the bottom of my heart, I am so sorry. I threw myself into the teachings of Keith Raniere with everything I had. I believed wholeheartedly that his mentorship was leading me to a better, more enlightened version of myself. I devoted my loyalties, my resources, and ultimately my life to him. This was the biggest mistake and the greatest regret of my life. I'm so sorry to those of you that I brought into NXIVM. I'm sorry that I ever exposed you to the nefarious and emotional abusive schemes of a twisted man. I am sorry that I encouraged you I am sorry that I encouraged you to use your resources to participate in something that was ultimately so ugly. I do not take lightly the responsibility I have in the lives of those I love, and I feel a heavy weight of guilt for having misused your trust, leading you down to a negative path. I am sorry to those of you whom I spoke to in a harsh and hurtful way. At the time, I believed I was helping. I believed in tough love and thought it was the path to personal empowerment. I was so confused. I never wanted to be someone who is considered mean, but those aspects of my humanity have been revealed in all of this, and it has been devastating to reconcile.
There you go.
I have experienced overwhelming shame as I have worked to accept and understand that all that went on and all that I chose. There were times I am not sure I would make it out of this alive. The pain was so crippling. That said, I know that coming out the other side, I am a better, kinder woman because of this. I know I cannot heal the pain my betrayal has caused you and your loved ones, but I can promise you that your hurt has not gone unseen and acknowledge this has changed me to my core. I also want to apologize to all friends and loved ones I have hurt throughout this process who were not involved in NXIVM. I know many of you fought hard to show me the truth about NXIVM and Keith, but I didn't listen. I pushed you away and silenced myself towards you when you were trying to save my life. I am sorry I was so stubborn. I am sorry I was blind to your care and deaf to your pleas. I wish that everything in me that I had chosen differently, but I cannot change the past. I lied to you again and again in order to protect the delusion I was so deeply committed to believing. I know that the sacred trust I broke cannot be reinstated without forgiveness and a significant passing of time. While I desperately miss my friends, I understand if you choose not to invest in the future that includes me. However, I hope you'll accept this sincere apology and know that I will hold all of you close to my heart for the rest of my life, even if we never speak again. The list of those harmed by the collateral damage of my destructive choices continue to grow as I become more and more aware of how my choices have affected those around me. I am grateful that I have made it through this process alive and that I was stopped when I was. I have the court, my family, my therapist, and a few amazing friends to thank for this. Please know that I am dedicated to spending my life working to mend the hearts I broke and continue to transform myself into a more loving and compassionate woman. Thank you for taking the time to read this letter, and I hope this offers a little bit of peace and closure to the horrific chapter that comes to an end. Allison.
There you go.
Now,
Well,
there are some things that I like about this letter and I dislike about the letter. The fact that she acknowledges what she did wrong is a big step in recovering from occult behavior. Because a lot of people coming out of cults or situations like hers would never admit that they did anything wrong.
mm-hmm.
Now, she admits she did wrong. Now, whether
Mm-hmm.
she actually believes she did wrong at the time of that letter and now is a different story.
Right.
At least she acknowledges what she did wrong.
Yeah. Well, she had 3
So,
years to think about it in jail.
yeah, so I think that is a good step. The fact that
Mm-hmm.
she was actually seeing a therapist will help her out. And if I
Mm-hmm.
remember right, the therapist actually specializes in people coming out of cults.
Mm-hmm.
So that will help also.
Yeah.
So
That went in her favor. There was also a large media press, kind of two minds. People were saying like, "How can you go so hard against Allison when she was actually a victim?" But truth be told, Allison is right there in the documentation of a lot of the bad things that were done
mhm.
individually, hands on to people. It was Allison. It was Allison's hands on people doing things. So it's hard to walk away from that. So she did they didn't negotiate as much with her as they could have because that is whatever the reason being, you can't get away from that. You do owe something to the victims. I mean, how are you going to tell a victim, well, she just wasn't in the right headspace?
Yeah.
It's just not
Um,
right. There's got to be a balance, so.
Krabby ass. She was not in jail. She was on home confinement, wasn't she? I
Yeah, she
believe at
was.
the time of the letter she was on home confinement, but I believe now
Mhm.
she's in jail.
She's in prison. She has to
Yeah.
serve time. They did
Mm,
give her credit for some of that home confinement that she did before the actual sentencing, because she pled guilty in April, remember, and the
mhm.
sentencing didn't happen until June of 2020. So, there was quite a year that she spent at home waiting. And the next one up is Claire Bronfman. You ready?
Mhm.
Okay. Now, Claire also cleverly pled guilty in April 2019, and she pled guilty to conspiring to conceal and harbor the immigrants, okay, and the financial gain that she was, getting commercial financial gain from their labor and extra, bring them over, and fraudulent use of IDs, okay. Now, this makes me a little bit happy because all through the trial, Claire Bronfman's been a problem. she's walking around with an air of arrogance, like it's not a big deal, like they're going to get away, like it's not. She's guilty, but she's not guilty, you know. Like it's all, you know, she's helping to spread the rumors that Keith is that the system is working against them, and they're making a big case out of nothing because they don't like them, because they're a successful cult and they know what they're doing. And she's actively spreading this garbage around, and she's pissing off law enforcement back and forth. She gets 81 months, okay, for that one particular count. And that's 6 years and 9 months, okay. She pled in April. She finally got her sentencing on September 30th of 2020. And to my, what would you say, joy, maybe a little bit, I found out that part of her plea, Claire Bronfman had to pay $6 million to the fund, because the judge said, sorry, Claire, if it wasn't for you and your money and your arrogance, Keith couldn't have hurt all these people. You are intricately involved in this. It's you and your money that supported this. It is you and your money and your willingness to turn the other cheek to what he was doing that caused all this damage. So pay up. So here you go, 6 years and $6 million. And that's going to let me close the chapter there, because she's a problem, you know.
Yeah, but the thing with that, though, is she comes from money. So to her, $6 million, I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's a lot of money, whatever.
Yeah, but you know, she does come from money, but she got a lot of people that have that money that are really pissed off at her now, and they're trying to take that money away from her, Jay.
Yeah,
you know, they're like, you're irresponsible with how you're handling the family fortune. Maybe you shouldn't be family. Like, they're really going for her. She doesn't have it easy right now, that's for sure.
Oh, no, I'm not saying she had it easy. I'm just saying, you know, in her mind, she's probably thinking, whatever, it's only $6 million.
She's quite arrogant. The statements, like, you know, she did say he felt bad for, you know, some of the bad things that she did, but she's really not disavowing Keith the way everybody else is. She is saying that he was a bad man, but she's not going at it in the same manner, which is probably why her sentencing is right up there where it should be. We next go to Lauren. You know, poor Lauren. She was with Keith in a personal relationship the longest, right up until she was with Keith when he got arrested. Or she was still in the relationship with him, actively doing wrong things because he asked her to, because she thought that's what he wanted from her. She, as I said before, she pled guilty in 2019 when her mother came forward. Her sentence is only 5 years of probation. She got that sentence
I didn't understand
in July.
That one.
Okay. Because she only pled, as I said, to racketeering and racketeering conspiracy. Everything else she did hands-on with all the victims was removed. And it was removed, in my humble opinion. I don't get to see what happens when they do these negotiations behind the scenes. I only get to see the paperwork they filed before and after. It was definitely Nancy Saltzman, in my humble opinion, as not a legal expert or anything to do with courts. But Nancy Saltzman came forward with the evidence. She put it and dangled it in front of him, and she got her daughter a free pass.
Yeah,
okay, that's it. That's what happened. She made Lauren part of the deal, because Lauren was one of the first ones to plead right after Nancy. Okay. And her plea came down drastically. She got 5 years probation. She's in therapy. She's, you know, doing better. She disavows Keith completely. She did put out a very adequate statement as far as guilt and how humble, you know, a humble statement about how horrible she feels about everything that happened. And I think she may have even mentioned personal apologies to some of the victims herself. But Ivy, Danielle, several people showed up to her sentencing. There's no way she was getting away with it 100%. 5 years probation is still a stigma on her, that she has to, you know, go forward, and she's going to carry, you know, that for a while. She just doesn't have to serve jail time. There are quite a few restrictions to her probation that are going to conflict with, you know, things that she wants to accomplish in her life. But I do believe that the negotiations were based on the information that Nancy had, and the information that Lauren herself could provide about the sex trafficking, because she was directly involved. She was part of DOS. She was right there. And I believe that it was all her testimony too that aided the way to convict Keith, of course. We move on to the bookkeeper, Kathy Russell, pled also in April of 2019. She was finally sentenced on October 6th of the year. The last one to be sentenced in NXIVM was Kathy Russell. She pled to visa fraud. She pled to illegal commercial transactions for a credit card, which is in the United States is a serious offense. You know that, Jay.
Mhm.
Like they take that pretty serious here. So she just gets one count of visa fraud. She was doing it regularly to lots and lots of people, but she got one count, 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service, and $100 fine was what Kathy Russell ended up with. But Kathy Russell already was one of those that gave very damaging information against Keith Raniere, because it is speculated that when it comes to DOS, Kathy Russell was the test subject for how DOS would go. Kathy Russell was the one who suffered the most emotionally. We went through this before. Nobody knows a lot about her, but we know that she suffered the longest under the reign of Keith Raniere. She was there the whole time. She didn't get out like Barbara. She didn't walk away like Tony. She was there the whole time. And she is the one that he manipulated the most and tested out all these theories on how he was going to control these women. He did it to Kathy regularly. I'm kind of pleased that she didn't have to have that big of a financial impact against her, that she could reunite with her son and is, trying to rebuild her life the best that she can. Last one before we get to Keith is Nancy Saltzman. Now, she is the one that put everything forward and helped get all of this evidence together at the end against Keith, because with her actual coming forward with her voice and saying, yes, it happened, that's how it happened, exactly how you say, it made it an airtight case against Keith, because you need somebody who was involved in all of the conspiracies to say there was a conspiracy. You need someone involved in all of these alleged acts. You need somebody who was there, saw it, did it, to say, yeah, it happened, to make it a slam dunk. And Nancy provided that to the state prosecutor. She provided the slam dunk by coming forward and saying, okay, I'll testify. Here's what I know. Same thing with Lauren. She only got, of all the things that Nancy, now she's number 2. She's the prefect, right?
Yeah,
she's just as guilty, right? Everything. So Keith gets 120 years, but Nancy, smart, clever Nancy, just gets racketeering conspiracy. She doesn't even get confirmed racketeering. She only gets conspiracy. Okay, she gets 3.5 years, 42 months. She, like I said, she pled in 2019, the first one. She was convicted on September 8th of 2021, just this year. I'm torn about that one, because she was very guilty, but she did suffer a lot, and she did provide the slam dunk. So,
I understand getting a lighter sentence for bringing all the evidence and making it a slam dunk case, but only 3 years. It just she should have been she should like life sentence with a possibility of parole.
This is true.
That's what she should have got.
Well, maybe my ending information will make you happy then.
Yeah, let's go for it. What do we got?
Okay.
Let's bring it on home.
All right. What I have now is the verdict sheet on Keith. It didn't take them long to decide that Keith was guilty of everything. After all the women coming forward, everybody pled, right? And part of that plea was they had to give testimony for the next 1.5 years to support all the claims against Keith. And they did. When the verdict sheet came out, every single count of the first 7, he was guilty of. With just end every act, all 11 acts of the first count, the racketeering, the jury came through with guilty and proved, because when they do the racketeering acts, you have to say for each one of the count whether it was proved or not proved. And the jury, it was a beautiful jury sheet. I don't know. Do you want to see? I don't know. It's just check marks all the way across, and it just made me very, very, very happy. Keith Raniere for count 1 received life imprisonment and a $250 fine. It's a Class A felony.
$250. It's like that's not even enough to pay.
No,
the lawyer
250,000.
That was okay.
250,000.
250.
Okay.
I thought you said 250. Yeah. I was like, man, that ain't.
You just stopped listening, I think, or I trailed off. But
I think you trailed off because.
Okay, I'll give you that. All right. So count 2, same thing. Not more than life imprisonment and $250,000 fine, another Class A felony. Then count 6, forced labor conspiracy. He gets not more than 20 years and a $250,000 fine. For count 7, the wire fraud, he gets not more than 20 years imprisonment and a $250 fine. That's a Class C. Sex trafficking, again, 15 years to life. $250,000 fine. Sex trafficking specifically of Jane Doe, 15 years added on for $250,000 fine. Attempted sex trafficking, the count 10 that they added at the end, he got that one for guilty of Jane Doe 8, and he got another 15 years added on for that, and another $250 fine. Now, here you think, he was remanded to custody, okay? He got a total of 40 years on count 1 to be served concurrently with any other sentencing. He got another 40 years altogether, 480 months for count 2, to be served concurrently with sentences instead of consecutively. And then 20 years on count 6, 20 years on count 7, 40 years on count 8, 40 years on the count 9, and 40 years to go concurrently on count 10. Okay, to summarize, his cumulative sentence is 120 years total. Okay, but there's more. He also got penalized at the end. A lot. They also added, when they add everything up, he was ordered to pay $1,759,000 on top of that. And he is not ever going to get out. There is no parole recommended. There is no serve a little bit of time. He is there for life and he's not getting out. His appeals have been pathetic, to say the least. Okay. The only thing he was not penalized in sentencing for were counts 3, 4, 5, and 11. They were dismissed prior to sentencing, before documentation, but he did get it on all of the others. On counts 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, he received full penalty for. Now, it does not clarify for me in any way that I could speak with any knowledge on why they did that. They're not really going into great detail as why. It must have been part of the negotiations of what they would be doing with appeals.
And a lot of times, they'll drop a lesser charge or something they don't think they'll get enough if they know for sure they can nail them on this one. So there are, because sometimes it'll be like, it's just not worth it. We've got them pegged for this. We could charge him for this, but it's not really worth it because we're just going to nail him to the wall with this one.
Right. So. Well, in January, it doesn't get better for Keith. I mean, that's great, right? We're sending him to jail. Okay, wonderful. But remember, there's still members out there acting and keeping NXIVM together, right? And they are still doing things in the name of NXIVM. There are still assets in the name of NXIVM and the people that are involved. Keith's still making money while he's in jail, right? The organization is still pretty much running. But in January of 2020, a whole bunch of people got together and decided that perhaps that shouldn't be. And more victims came together. Everybody got together with Sarah Edmondson and Vincent, and the male John Does and the female Jane Does, and they filed a civil class action suit against everybody that was charged, and all the active people still, okay, and all of the organizations, and they're going after everything that they have for restitution. October 2020, there was a judgment, an order of restitution, one of the last filings of the 1,135 that I went through, was the United States District Court, Eastern District of New York, saying that Keith Raniere himself has to pay another additional $3,700,000. Where was that? Oh my God. $3,460,000, $336.06 on top of the 1,700 that he has to pay from the sentencing. So they've added that to the fund for the victims. Okay, and that's going to go to all of the victims who filed in that court case. There are 21 victims personally named. That is going to go to, and that would be Sarah Edmondson, and that the ones that financially were losing money, that they can prove that he was swindling them out, that money is going to be divided up to them. What they did also, which kind of made me happy, is they filed this judgment as if it was an IRS tax lien, which in the United just like I got goosebumps when I read it, because what that means here in America is he can't get out of this. No hell, no way. It doesn't matter if he makes not a dime again. He will never get this debt out from under him. He's going to, if he gets a penny, half of that penny is going to go to this judgment. No bankruptcy, nothing is going to get him out of this. Once they did it.
Krabby did bring up something. It says, in a country where asset forfeiture is alive and well and innocent people get hit with it, they can take everything if they want it. And there is what we didn't get into in that the lawsuit is there was a section at the bottom about asset forfeitures if they were found guilty of these charges. So
that was built in. That is in the state of New York. I should have clarified more clearly. That's all built into most of these suits. That if the assets were used in racketeering, it's a East Coast thing, I guess. Anything to do with racketeering, anything to do with conspiracy, all asset forfeiture goes to anything they can prove that the money touched is theirs. It becomes, part of the case, and it all gets taken to pay up all of this. That's where a lot of this money is going to come from, even though it's not in Keith's name. If they can prove that it's in these other people's names because they're in NXIVM, if they can prove they're in NXIVM, they have proved now with this sentencing that Keith runs NXIVM, right? That NXIVM is Keith, ergo it's Keith, okay? Anything in their name, it now belongs to them. And all of these people are going to lose everything that they put in their names for Keith. It's all up for grabs, and they're going to be going after it piece by piece. This is the part that lets me put it to rest, because, Keith's never getting out, okay? No. And even though as arrogant as he is, he feels it's all fine because he can run things from there. That's not going to last very long. It's 120 years. It's going to get to him eventually. He's going to realize he's much smaller than he thought. That makes me happy. Yeah.
Do we know where he's being housed at?
I don't. That's the one thing I didn't look up. I did not. Do you?
No, I have no clue. I didn't know if you had any information that.
Nope, I did not look up where he was. I guess just having him locked up was enough for me. I don't want to know where he is. Yeah. I just, a hole in hell somewhere, Jay. The worst, in my mind, in the worst prison we have here in the United States. I don't want to know he's in one of those cushy places.
Well, he's in New York, so I'm wondering if he's in San Quentin.
That would be a good place. That would be a nice place for him.
Krabby says Arizona.
Is he in Arizona? Why would they send him to Arizona?
If
Google
could be trusted.
Well, we're gonna go with it because I did not pull that part. But the fact that he's also losing everything he worked for, all the money, all the prestige, he's got to watch that go to everybody else. This makes me happy. This makes me, I don't want to say happy. Let's say I can just finally put it to rest, that knowing that he financially has to also pay it. He's losing everything. And it's going to be ongoing, and the victims are going to be getting something out of it, and at least get their power back, that they can actually put the screws to him financially, and to his organization for years to come. It's some kind of justice. It's not all justice, but it's some kind of justice. It's enough justice for me to turn the page, you know.
So okay, according to Wikipedia, so sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's good, but whatever. But also cooperated with Times Union. Excuse me. Said Raniere began serving his 120-year sentence at the United States Pen in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. And then on January 22nd of this year, he was transferred to a maximum security prison in the penitentiary in Tucson, Arizona.
Okay, so Krabby, good Google skills there. She gets the Google award today. That was good. Yeah. Do you know that there's part of that federal lawsuit, they're actually claiming that all of those people were conducting illegal psychological experiments on them, and this is how they're going to be getting the money out of them. Yeah. Because you're not allowed to do that.
Then you.
No. But they're going after not only the people that were convicted of crimes here, but they're going after the remaining members like Karen Untier, Brandon Porter, Danielle Roberts, Nikki Klein. Why is Nikki Klein not charged? Somebody explain this to me. Yeah, she's still out there doing bad things, okay? But they are actually going after her civilly for conducting illegal psychological experiments on members of the company, abusing them physically, emotionally, and financially for gain to themselves. And that's the nuts and bolts of the civil case.
So I was just reading something here. It's from TV Guide. It said the sentencing was handed down after a morning of listening to statements from 15 of Raniere's victims, including sisters who became involved with him when they were struggling teenagers. I
Daniela
still hear
and Mariana.
Yeah. Yep. I still hear his voice in my head, and it continues to be a daily struggle. You abused my innocent body, messed up my mind, and turned my family against me. During the sentencing, Raniere told the court, I do believe I am innocent of the charges. It is true I am not remorseful of the crimes I do not believe I committed at all. Yeah, and to this day, he still doesn't think he did anything wrong.
Nope, he is actually cultivating to anybody that will listen that it is just the government doesn't like him because he's successful and he knows more than they do, and because of his brilliance they have to punish him. It's the typical crazy person cult leader bullshit. Like they're just out to get me. While the court case was going on, there was a group of women from NXIVM that were doing YouTube videos saying that he was being set up, that they were just mad that they found one pornographic image on an old device. And that's what he was being charged with. And when I watch those videos now, I'm laughing. After I read 1,135 freaking filings, I'm like, okay, where is this piece of child pornography that they say he claimed that he was like? I think that part got dropped. I don't know, but like it was just such bullshit. You know what I mean? But this is how he twisted everybody's mind. That they would actually go out there, put their faces out there as a group, and say, "Poor Keith, they're persecuting him." It's very unsettling. And Robert brings up a good point, like how they're going to get Keith to pay. Like he's in jail anyway. What are they going to do? Keep him in jail longer? Like he's never getting out anyway. Well, here's the point. He don't have no say. They're going to just strip everything that he has his names. They're going after everybody everywhere with the money. They're going to get that money. Keith doesn't have to give it to them. They are literally taking it under that IRS regulation. He can't even fight it. They just, it's we'll grab it later. You fight for it if you want it back. It's going to happen. So I'm happy for the victims that do get something out of it. At least the knowledge that they're going to be taking something that he covets away from him.
Krabby says, I say send him to one down south with no air, and a work farm on a chain gang in Alabama would be good.
It would. But that was fun, Jay. Thank you for that. That was fun for me because I don't often get to go through so many legal documents and get to talk about it with anybody.
I don't think we've got anything left to cover on this NXIVM unless anybody in the chat's got any questions.
Yeah,
I think we can wrap this bad boy, rubber stamp it, and put it in the box.
He is, yeah, he was something. I mean, there's a lot. When you look at Wikipedia, right, Jake? There is
Yeah.
a lot of documentaries
God,
done.
yeah,
There are tons of books, and we're
Yeah.
still waiting on Mark Vicent. I'm waiting on that one so good because he was a cinematographer. He was a very creative person to begin with, and he was there for a long time and very intelligent. And I'm waiting for his stuff to come out. I don't know what the holdup is.
The one thing I like about Wikipedia is the references at the bottom.
Mhm.
You know, I always tell people using Wikipedia is fine if you use it for source material. If you just try to pull from the actual article itself, you know,
No.
because
No.
people can go in and change that, but they cannot go in and change the reference articles.
No, but and if you look at the bottom of that one, there's a lot. There's a lot there. There's like a lot there. I mean, not only was the court case huge, but all of the the stuff that people said about it, did about it. We know quite a few YouTubers that have a whole series on NXIVM. I think ones we have in common are Queen of Spades, and I think even Dead Kennedy.
Yeah, I think Dead Kennedy
Yep, he
Space
did
did one,
something.
and I
Mm-hmm.
seen the other day, yesterday, in fact, that Nonsec actually did a show on
Yep,
it.
they did. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
I've looked at that one also. So,
our friend Steve and Chesh over
mhm.
there at Nonsec.
Are you excited about that? They're going to be doing the show in January with,
Yeah, yeah, I'm
with you know
excited to
who?
see them back.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like,
Yeah, they're
oh
gonna have
man,
first episode Frank Parlata. So,
right. One
and
of the
you guys should recognize the name. Is the guy we've referenced quite often during this series with the
yeah,
NXIVM stuff. So that is
right. Yeah.
that is going to be interesting to hear.
We used a
So
lot of Frank Report,
yes, we
because
did.
he
Yep,
was
sorry.
part of the organization. He was part of the organization for a while. Keith hired him to deflect some of this bad PR stuff he was getting. Yeah. Didn't go so good.
Yeah. So next week, Chris and myself will be here next week, and we are going to be covering. Was Paul? Did Paul McCartney die, and was he replaced? Here on
Hmm.
Cults and Conspiracies, that one should be a good one. Like I said, this is the last week we will not have Six Pack. Next week, Six Pack returns with episode 99. So that should be a good one. We'll probably be talking about what's going on episode 100. We got some special guests coming for episode 100. And the following week, here on Cults and Conspiracies, after we cover Paul McCartney, Claire will be back with us again as me and Chris and Claire dig into Raelians.
Okay.
Chris has been excited for that one. Chris is going to run that one
Oh.
because that's his. He's been harping about doing Raelians for the beginning, so Chris is going to walk us through the cult of the Raelians. And I don't know how many episodes that one's going to run. Chris says 6, but we'll see what happens.
Wait a minute. There's enough. Like, I haven't started yet.
I haven't started looking into it either. I'm not sure if I want to or if I want to go in empty.
Well, let us know,
and
Chris. Let us
learn
know
as we
what you
go.
want us to do.
Yeah.
Let us know. No, that's going to be something.
Yeah. So that's what's going on there. Tomorrow night over on True Serial, Claire and I will be talking what makes a serial killer. And go ahead.
You're going to tell him my instructions. I'm not allowed to know nothing. I'm not allowed to Google. I'm not allowed to look at anything legal. I got to go in there cold, and he's going to throw stuff at me. She's got to come in cold
because I want to see what she knows about serial killers and what makes a serial killer.
I know they drink coffee, all of them.
So that'll be interesting to take a look at. And then the following week, I do have the open round table for those that want to join. Let me know. It will be all things serial killers and maybe some Ed Kemper. But if you want to join us for that one, like I said, it's an open round table on True Serial next week. Let me know. Get a hold of myself. You can either get a hold of me on Discord at True Serial, or you can get a hold of me on Twitter at True Serial, or you can email me at trueserial@gmail.com. So yeah, if you want to join us for that, let me know. Claire, you got anything coming up?
No. I have a light besides working with you. I do have a stream with Jen in the morning when we normally around the time hereticals or a little later that we are going to be doing her game show thing. So there's that. It's I don't want to say the word what we're doing, but there's some nasty people. Go to the back of Polymathic's community tab,
okay.
and yeah,
I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, because I like Chris and you should stay monetized. Like, so I will keep zipping it, but it's going to be worth it. Go. You get to vote for some really nasty people.
Yeah. I say, as soon as you said on the back of in the community, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But
no. I think that's everything going on right now. What are we talking about Monday?
What? Well,
did we determine what, I think we should do some updates on Monday. What do you think?
Well, you mean updates on my usual stuff? We could do that.
Yep.
Yeah. Of course, there's a little bit of things there, here and there. I mean, I've only got 12 open cases, Jake. I mean,
well, let's do some. I say we do some updates. How about that?
Okay. That's all right. So Jay's running the show, guys. Okay, we're gonna do what Jay said.
If you want to do something else, it's your show. I'm just throwing a suggestion out.
How did this happen to me? You took my Google away and my legal away for Thursday, and now you're running my show on Monday. I don't know, Chris. I understand your problems now. We gotta talk. Chris. No, all in good fun. I love working with you, Jay. This has been a blast for me. It's been good. This case has been sitting. This freaking cult has been sitting on my nightstand, like books and books and files for a very long time. And I'm going to pack this shit up now because I feel satisfied now. I feel complete.
You got Raven and my mom going, and Jay takes over another show.
I know, you guys. You all need to help me. You all need to help me. I'm a little tiny channel, a little tiny.
Hey, I'm just your guest on Monday. We can do whatever you want to do on Monday.
Oh no! You could tell them. You moved the time around. You changed the music already. Come on.
No, okay. I didn't change the time around. You changed the time around. And the music is because that music was horrible.
It was really bad.
That music was really bad.
It was really bad. And I'm just joking with you. They know I'm only kidding. I mean, I'm sure they do. Oh, but it was pretty funny. If you do add it all up, though, you look pretty bad, Jay.
I do.
And you add the pineapple pizza and the coffee on top of that, and you got a haters club, dude.
Raven's like, that's how he reels you in.
I know. Oh God, now you got me crying. Oh gosh, I'm so done. I'm just so relieved. I mean, this was great. I really, everybody that came for all 7 episodes.
All 7 episodes, yeah. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking this wild ride with us. Yeah, because it has been a wild ride.
Yeah. It has. And, we tried to do it a little bit different than everybody else, the way we broke it down and the things that we focused on. And to give you more information, things you may have not known. But for me, it was cathartic. Like, I'm done. I'm finally done with NXIVM. Like, this feels good.
I mean, we could have been like everybody else, covered it in one episode, been in one and done. But I just think there was so much involved in this that we needed to get it real good.
Yeah, it was, and it's hard to cover something that there's so much out there on.
Yeah, like you were sorry.
Mm-hmm. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, like you said, it's hard to cover it differently than other people do because, like you said, there's so many people that cover it. And to find a way to cover it differently and to make it interesting was a task, but I think we nailed it. I think, we got some pretty good views and there are a few comments that were pretty good. So thank you.
Well, it's good because, you're happy. Chris is happy. I get to still come back. So that's a good thing. I like it. I like it a lot. I think we're wrapped up then. Yeah.
Yep. Pretty much. $7 super chat from the Krabby Hermit. A tip for every trip.
Oh, that's a compliment. Thank you, there. Thank you, man. You see that?
So
that's a compliment. I like the ones who say they don't have any questions either. Virilian says, I got no questions. It was great coverage. Like, I got it. That's a compliment, actually. You know,
Yeah.
that means we got the information out there.
Yeah, I think, like you said, yeah, like you were saying, I think we got everything out there that needed to be out there. I think we covered everything.
Mm-hmm.
You ready to put this one to bed?
I am.
I am too.
Thank you, everybody.
So everybody, thank you for joining us. Yeah, thank you, Claire, for making this a wonderful series. 7 weeks of nothing but NXIVM, and we are so NXIVM'd out.
When I say we're done, like we're actually like done.
We're done.
Like, we're done.
So
that's it. We're done.
Thank you all. From all of us over here, Hereticals, from myself and from Chris. And thank you, Claire, for joining us, and thank you everybody in the chat once again. Hereticals isn't Hereticals without you guys in the chat. You're part of the show, no matter what it is. Cults, six pack, doesn't matter. You are part of the show. Thank you all for joining us. Remember, next week we look at, did Paul McCartney die and was he replaced? And then next week will be the return of Six Pack. I don't know if there's a pre-show. I don't remember seeing anything.
All I know is I'm so darn happy that
everybody is happy that Six Pack's coming back. So thank you all. Once again, love you all. You guys have yourself a marvelous day.
Yep. We'll see you.
And Happy New Year.
Yeah, we will see you. Next time we
see you. Yeah, next time we see you here on Cults and Conspiracy, it'll be the new year. So
there you go.
Thank you all. Happy holidays, happy New Year, and as always, be water, my friends.
Yep, and drink coffee.
Yeah, whatever.